everybody, this is Joseph Sharon, and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently read Waxing On, The Karate Kid and Me, which is by Ralph Macchio. And when I was a kid, actually I should say when I was a kid, when I was a little bit older, I found Ralph really sweetly attractive. And what can I say? I like men with dark hair, okay? It's one of my turn-ons. I can't help it. But I grew up with The Karate Kid, and The Karate Kid and The Karate Kid 2 were my favorite movies of all time, and I remember seeing both in the cinema, and my mom used to quote Mr. Miyagi all the time, so we had an inside joke about the whole Focus Daniel-san thing, so when I read that in the book, it brought back a lot of really happy memories for me. And it spoke of the contention based on the third Karate Kid, which a lot of fans thought was the worst, other than the next Karate Kid, which we don't talk about for obvious reasons. It's not even Ralph. His conjecture is it's not part of the Miyagi-verse. So I thought, oh good, you're standing up for people like me who just don't even think that movie should have been greenlit. That being said, Karate Kid 3 was more of an expansion of 2. However, without Karate Kid 3, there would be no Cobra Kai. So, out of what was a box office failure came probably one of the greatest contributions to Western media as we know it. And it's still a testament to this day, and it's done to martial arts what Bloodsport did to MMA, what Rudy did to football, what Hoosiers did to basketball. The list goes on and on. So it's equivalent to that. The book was woefully short, I found. I didn't want it to end because it was like I was going to have tea at a friend's house. That's the best way I can describe it. I thought, oh yeah, this is a nice little get together, and then it's over. I thought, oh, I don't want to go home, please don't send me away. But if you're a fan of the original Karate Kid, or you enjoy Cobra Kai, you can get inside Ralph's head here and get to see behind the scenes. Plus, there's some really great photographs in this book. Those are just absolutely wonderful. And it's a testament and enduring to its time, and also just a reminder of how innocent films were back then and how different the 80s were, and why I still miss the 80s and 90s, and why I still think they're some of the best decades I had in my young life, and I miss them dearly, but I realize you can't go back. You can remember, you can have nostalgia, but those are my formative years, and they made me who I am today, which is probably why I'm still such an optimist. But I am a realist in that fact, and my life has taught me quite a bit. Sorry, baby's running around and I hear her footfalls on the floor. Baby, you're not quiet at all. You sound like a rhinoceros running through here. Anyway, like I said, if you're a fan of Karate Kid or Cobra Kai, then you should definitely read this book, even though it's way too short, and it should be longer, but Macchio, he does a magnificent job of explaining everything that he went through. And what's interesting is Daniel's surname was actually changed. In the original script, it was Weber instead of LaRusso. And can you even fathom a movie without Daniel LaRusso instead of Daniel, Weber? Weber is such an English name. Weber is a name that doesn't really have any stick, it just doesn't roll off the tongue. It's just, I'm glad they changed it, honestly, because LaRusso is just more poetic, it flows off the tongue. Plus, it just seems sort of a coincidence, as we all know, if we're awake to this. There are no such things. The universe doesn't do that to us. God doesn't do that. Given the fact that Macchio is Italian, LaRusso just fits for him. It just makes sense. I mean, you don't even have to think about it. So I'm thinking that was just a wink from God saying, hey, this is the role you were meant to play. And a lot of things happened to him. A lot of opportunity came to him. And it's just like everything was a blessing. Yeah, and just it was absolutely incredible. It just seems like a miracle, honestly. It feels like magic, honestly. I don't know how else to put it. It's everything that was meant to happen just happened in such a way that it feels like luck. It's hard to explain without having to go into what Ralph talks about in the book and his former roles and other roles that he had, and people that he recalls spending time with and the connections that he got from those people. But it's one of those right place, right time scenarios, and it's also a testament to nice guys do finish last. So in my life, I find that there are people who will treat you the way you want to be treated, but then there are those who will try to kick you down when you're not at your best. The trick is to either kill them with kindness or just not even acknowledge people like that, because people like that, they're actually there. I know this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I feel that people like that are there to help you grow as a person, and they're not at your level, and they may never be at your level, but there's always that other side. There's that kind of unknown factor that we can't see. Maybe we're the catalyst in their lives and they needed a little push to become better. Who knows? I mean, you don't know that. You can't tell by a simple interaction who you're going to affect and what kind of impact you're going to have on people's lives. I mean, I'd actually written about that before, and I know I've mentioned it. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I consider myself blessed to be an influence on others. And I hope that at least I give some encouragement to those who might feel like, oh, nothing I ever do is going to amount to anything. No, don't think that way. That's either you talking badly to yourself and believing the lies that you've perpetuated, which is really counterproductive. I mean, I should know. I have been through this, and trust me, it gets you nowhere. So you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and then just march right on up to yourself and say, hey, look, I'm going to do what I came here to, and I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there eventually. So you just better take a back seat and shut up. So you got to talk to yourself like that sometimes. I know it seems a little bit mean, but I know who I am. I've come very far in my life, and reading this actually gave me such great inspiration, and the movie itself has given me inspiration. And it's about family. The whole movie itself is about family. It's about confidence. It's about becoming better. So many universal themes that we can all relate to. Good versus evil. It's universal themes, and I think that's why it stands the test of time among other films, and why Barney Stinson actually mentioned it, How I Met Your Mother, and of course he mentions that too, and Neil Patrick Harris, and that part was a lot of fun because I thought, oh yeah, I remember all that, and I was really big into that, and I was just such a proponent. I love Neil Patrick, so yeah, he mentioned a lot of my favorite people, and I thought, 6 degrees, this feels like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, because if you know anything about that particular concept, I'll reiterate it, but 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, it's, if you think of Kevin Bacon and the films he's been in, there's probably another movie or television show or maybe ad that he's been in that relates to another thing that relates to another thing that relates to this thing that relates to that over there. It's we're all connected sort of inference in that the string theory. Yeah, it's basically a very condensed layman's form of string theory, if you want to think of it that way. Mind blown, but that's what the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon really is. And then I think, well, his version of Kevin Bacon would be Neil Patrick Harris in that case. Well, other than Neil Patrick Harris, he mentions a lot of other people that were his Kevin Bacons. And this we could see the little proliferation, just a poo in the pond and ripples outward, but it's that whole idea of the rippling outward. We never know. I've mentioned this so many times, and you can either be a force of good, or you could be a force of condemnation, and I'd rather be a force of good. So I will forever be this way. And he proves that you can be a good guy. You can do good. You can do something that you don't even realize what the impact is going to be years later from after the fact, and then you come to Cobra Kai and you think, this is bigger than me. This is much bigger than me. And he's actually very humble about it, and it's just so refreshing because a lot of stars aren't, but he just seems like a really nice guy. You know, I'd love to meet Ralph if I could. Ralph, if you're watching, please, I need you to autograph my book. But what else can I say? I can't really say that much else. Today's the day. It is the day after Friday the 13th. Ooh, scary. I'm not afraid at all. I'm no longer hold on to my father's curse that he had on the 13th of this month. Any 13th in any month would bring him ill fortune, horrible misfortune. That probably was no fault of his own. Most likely it was no fault of his own. But because of that, he loathed the 13th with the utmost. He got really frightened around the 13th of the month. It didn't matter whether it was the Friday the 13th or not. He got to the point where he's like, we got to pray today. We got to pray. It's the 13th. It's the 13th. And he would remind me, he's like, oh, be careful. It's the 13th. I'm like, Dad, no, it's a number. But he had reasons, and he was so vociferous about his hatred toward it and his fear that surrounded it. For good reason. He just lost so much around the 13th, and for a while I carried what I called his curse around the 13th, and then after a while it just, I thought, you know what, I should have remembered what I told him. It's coming back to haunt me. It's just a number. So I had to tell myself, I'm not going to let anything affect me. Nothing can touch me. I know who has my back. I have no fear. And then I'm fine. And it was the best day ever. So I've got a few more Friday the 13th this year, just due to the fact that it is an uneven number. It is an odd number. That's why it happens. So yeah, I'm not afraid of what comes. But anywho, gonna be moving stuff around in the studio, hopefully doing some animation and stuff, and some other things. So that's probably all I got to say. I'm trying to see what the deal is with KDP and not publishing my first book as a paperback. But if they don't do it this time, if they've done the review and they just decide, well, we're not going to publish it. It's 55 pages. It's enough for a small book. But if they don't, I'm just going to keep it as an ebook so people can actually read it as much as they like at their leisure. But that's pretty much all I got to say. So until next time, live long and prosper. Ciao, Susie.